All right, so we're going to continue working on Pacman. If you didn't do your Pacman, if you weren't here last time, you have to do Pacman first before you can continue on. Okay, so you can just watch for now. This isn't going to be a terribly too long process because we're pretty much almost done with Pacman. Okay. So what we're going to do first is always copy our preferences. Every time you come in, we have to copy our preferences from our folder. So I'm right-clicking and copying mine. Oops. Copying mine. There we go. And I'm going to go into the Maya folder, delete the ones that are there, and paste them. And then I can start Maya up. All right, so last time when we worked, the first thing that we did was we went into there and went to File, Project window, and we created a project. Okay, if you remember from last class, such a long time ago, we created this project. Sarcona Pacman was mine, yours was whatever your name is. And on this, in this folder is all the stuff that we're going to need. Okay, it's our assets, autosaves, caches, clips, data, images, whatever else. If you work in After Effects or Photoshop or Illustrator and you link to external files, it automatically knows where those files are located. Okay. Now, have you ever been in After Effects on a computer here, taking your stuff home, and then it couldn't find any of your stuff, right? The same thing would happen inside Maya, okay? But Maya has a project setting. So instead of it trying to find stuff on, like, just so you're aware of the difference in technology, on a PC, if I'm trying to find a file, I would typically go C drive, users, whatever the username is, documents, ... all the way down that chain. On a Mac, it's different. It's volumes, Macintosh, there, okay? So how they name their own structures is different. So Maya doesn't care about that as long as we set up our project and we continue setting it up every time we work. So now that we have this project folder, we have this project that we're working on, we have to tell Maya that we're working on that project before we open it. Okay? We don't simply go into our scenes folder and double click that file and open it, because that would be a bad thing, because Maya then doesn't know how things are connected. Okay? So once we have Maya open, we don't open Maya, we don't open our project, we go to File and we go to Set Project. Okay? And then we tell Maya what we're working on. We're working on, in my case, Sarcona Pacman. So I hit Set. Okay? Every time you come in, you should go to File, Set Project, and tell Maya what you're working on. That way it knows, here's where my files are. If you don't do that, it gets confused and it starts saving things in other spots and starts importing stuff from other areas that it shouldn't be importing from. Now that I've set it, then I can go to File, Open, and open up my file. So we have our project set. We've opened up our scene. I'm just going to hit play, and we can see this is where we were at last time, where we had our Pacman guy, and we had our board, and we had our materials on here. So if we hit the render button, we would be able to see something like that. Now if you look at mine, I'm going to make this a little brighter so you can see on the projector. There we go. I'm not exactly in the top view. The shader that we set up, that ramp shader, was set up to be perfectly black when we're looking straight at it. That's why I'm getting this blue here, because I'm not looking straight at it. Okay? So if I switch to the top view, and I could just tap the space bar, go in the top view, tap the space bar, and then hit that render button again, I'll get more of a blanket coloring. Okay, so you can see here it looks much better than it did in the other one, where I was getting basically like a big blue coloration right there. Okay, so we're actually going to be rendering these from the top view. We could, you can stay where you're at on yours, but I just want to show you that I could go in here and spin my camera around. Where's he at? And I could also render this from an angle like this. Okay? Or I could also turn my camera. Maya cameras like to turn a certain way, so you have to go to Extra Tools, in order to turn it that way. There we go. So I could turn him this way and actually render a camera out of Pacman coming right at us. Again, this is the cool thing about using 3D, is that it's, once we created the scene and created that action, it's wide open as to how we want to render our stuff out. Okay. So back to the top view. Oops, that's not the top. There it is. Okay. So here's our Pacman guy. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on this blue circle that's up here. This is another one of our panes that we can edit. This blue circle right here under the word renderer, we're going to click on. Okay? And what that does is it brings up what's called the resolution gate. And this allows us to see exactly what's going to render. If you look at the green bar on the far right of my screen and the green bar on the far left of my screen, that's what's going to render. Okay? And what that means is if I put this right on that edge, that edge is going to render. If it's a hair over, then I'm going to have a little bit of a hair opening right here. Okay? So this is kind of like your camera's viewfinder allowing us to frame our action. So what I want you to do is fill that view so that you can see your Pacman guy. Okay? We don't want to have any black on the outside of it. So try to fill that as best you can. And then once you're done, hit the play button. I want to come by and take a look at them. All right? So now we're going to go into what's called the render settings. And if you're familiar with After Effects, there's render settings inside there that typically, for whatever reason, you set up like every single time you render. In Maya, you set them up once, and they're good. Okay? For this scene. If we made a new scene, made new objects, we set it up again. So this little clapper on the top with the 2 dots, that's our render settings. So we're going to click on the little clapper with 2 dots. And this brings up all of our render settings. And we've already set up some of these. No, we didn't. This is my old ones. All right, so we're going to start at the top and work our way down. So first thing, we'll give it a name. So where it says file name prefix, we're going to call this, whatever your last name is, underscore Pacman. Okay? It's very important that you add your name to as much stuff inside here as you can. When we start rendering these, every single frame is going to come out of Maya. Okay? Just like when we hit this button here and we do that. Okay? Maya saves this file and puts it into a folder. And then it goes to frame 2 and it saves that file. And it goes to frame 3 and saves that file. So by the time we're done with this, how many files or how many frames are we going to have? 200. Okay? So we're going to have 200 files that if we don't know where they're at, we have to do a lot of looking around, and it's a lot easier if we know that our name is inside it. Okay? If we know that Sarcona is where I want it, then I can find it easy. All right, for the image format, we're using a format called Maya If. So we're using a format called Maya If. It's kind of like a TIFF, but it's different. Okay? That's all you have to know. The frame animation extension. Right now it's set to name.extension. Okay? And what that means is we're rendering out single frames, hence the word single frame right after it. So we want to change that to name.number.extension. Okay? So the third one down, that's the one we want to change it to. And the reason we're changing that to name.number.extension is when we bring this into After Effects, After Effects will read that as frame 1 is going to be called, if we look up at the top of this, Sarcona underscore Pacman dot 0001 for frame 1 dot if. If we change this thing down here to something else, After Effects may not read the files at all. It may say, what is this? I don't know what kind of file this is. I don't know what order these files are supposed to be in. Okay? So this name.number.extension is the one we use every single time. Now, if you don't punch that one in, and it takes 6 days to render, the only way to correct that is to go frame by frame and renumber and rename each file. Okay? So we don't want that to happen. Frame padding we can pretty much leave alone. All this is if you look up at my numbering here, it's 0001.if. As I scroll this back, you can see now it's .1.if. And as I scroll it up, now it goes back to 00001. The padding is how many numbers are there. For instance, I have Harry Potter on my iPod. So as I'm listening to Harry Potter on my iPod, it goes chapter 1, or yeah, chapter 1, chapter 1, chapter 1. And what should come after chapter 1? 2. But what does come after chapter 1? 10. Because logically, 1 and then 1, 0 is the next order, okay? So it sucks that it does that, then I have to go cycle through, okay? So it would go 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, all the way to 19. And then it would go to 2, and then it would go to 20. And then it would do all the 20s. And then it would go to 3 and do all the 30s, okay? So the padding is important so that it knows this is not 1, this is 0, 0, 0, 1. This is 0, 0, 1, 0, okay? So it knows the numbers there. So typically frame padding at 4 is wonderful. We leave it. Start frame, self-explanatory. What frame are we starting our animation at? Frame 1. What frame are we ending this at? 200. Okay. By frame, renumbering frames, skipping frames. This is a good way just to kind of, when you get into further stuff, and it is taking like 6 hours a frame to render, where you might want to render out every 15th frame just to make sure everything's cool before you set the whole thing to go, okay? So we're leaving those alone, but just for fun, leave them there. Renderable camera, we're rendering from the top view, so we're going to choose top, okay? Those are fine. This is fine. If you're working Maya 2014, I think it is, or 2013, these default settings are different. We're in 2015, so we don't have to worry about it, okay? Up at the top where it says Maya Software, we're going to click that. And under this, we're going to change our quality. It says quality, and it says preview. We're going to change that to production quality. Okay? And all that does is it takes our stuff and make it not look bad. Okay? It just makes the rendering quality better. Just like the name. Okay? And then the rest of this we ignore. Okay? So just real quick, let me show you what we changed. Is we changed the name. We changed the frame animation extension to name.number.extension. We chose our start and end frame. We picked our camera. And we went to the Maya software and chose production quality. Okay? So that's all we have to do for our setup. So you can close that. And then let's go to File, Save Scene As. We have to go under the render menu. So we can use the hotbox, go to render, and say batch render. Okay, so hotbox, render, batch render.
Where's the hotbox?
The hold down the space bar. Nothing happening right now, or nothing visual except for this thing. If I click on that far right button that says script editor, and I make that bigger, I can watch the progress of this. Now you see that it says, it's happening so quick, 100% done, 100% done. That's for each frame, okay? So it goes to frame 1, renders it out, saves it. Goes to frame 2, renders it out, saves it. Goes to frame 3, 4, so on, okay? So right now, if I look at this, it says 0067, I'm on frame 67, I'm on frame 70, I'm on frame 71. So it's going really quick because we didn't set anything fancy up. We don't have lights in the scene, we don't have shadows. All we have are basic materials with some coloring to them. That's all we have, okay? Once you start adding fancy stuff to it, even playing inside Maya could take a minute a frame, 2 minutes a frame, and so on, okay? Rendering it, like I said for the rendering class, some of those take 8 hours to render one frame. That's all they do for their assignments is one single frame, okay? There's a lot of stuff that we don't do in this because it just takes forever, okay? Even your first assignment might take 2 days to render because of how much more involved it is compared to this guy, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to wait until this is done, and then we will put them together so we can make a movie. You could open up After Effects. The stuff we're going to do in After Effects is nothing compared to what After Effects can do. All we're doing is using After Effects as a way to take a bunch of files and make it into a QuickTime file that we could play anywhere, pretty much. Okay?
2014?
Yep, 2014. All right, so everyone's should be done. I'm looking around. I think everyone has theirs done. Is anyone still rendering? Or yours is still going? Okay, well, it should be done soon. All right, so in After Effects, I think there was only 2 people or 3 people that have never used After Effects in this class. It's pretty simple to do what we're going to do. It'll take you 3 seconds to do it once you understand the process and do it a few times. So if the window pops up like it did on mine, just close that window. Okay. Here are the major areas of After Effects. This is where we import stuff on the left. This is where we see stuff that we're working on the right. This is our timeline. Those are our 3 main areas. Okay. So we're going to bring our footage in. So in the project area, you just double click. Okay. And this will allow us to go find our footage. And our footage should be in our folder, in 2510, in work, in Pacman, in images, and then we should see our Sarcona, or whatever your last name is, Pacman.001. Okay, so inside here we have a bunch of files listed. After Effects is smart enough to recognize what a sequence is based on our name.number.extension. Okay, so you see when I click on one of these files that this thing highlights where it says if sequence. That means it's automatically recognizing, hey, you want to bring in a sequence. So all I have to do is click any file in that. It automatically recognizes it. That thing's clicked, so I hit import. Okay. So now we have our footage here. So then we can just take this and drag it down onto this new comp button. This little one next to the 8 BPC. We just drag it right next to it. There it is. And then if you hit the 0 on the numeric keypad, it'll play it, and we can see what the final rendering looks like. All these Pacman are is just a way for us to see that process. The same thing that we did, we created a project, we modeled a bunch of stuff, we animated stuff, we textured stuff, and then we rendered it out. That's the same thing we're going to be doing, just on a bigger scale starting next week. Okay? So this is just for previewing in After Effects, just to see what it looks like. It looks gorgeous. Let's render it out for real. So we're just going to tap the space bar. If yours didn't finish, a couple of them didn't finish before, you can right click on your footage and reload it, and then just drag that to the new comp button again when it's done, and you'll have a brand new comp with the finished product. Okay? So we're going to go to composition at the top and say add to render queue. That should pop up the render queue, or should switch you over to the render queue on the bottom. We're going to click on the word lossless, right, with this yellowish word. And we're going to choose the format. We don't want AVI, we want QuickTime. So we choose the format to QuickTime. And under format options, we make sure that the video codec is set to H.264, which by default now it is set to H.264. So we don't have to touch that. So we just hit OK and OK. And hit OK there. Okay, so that was clicking on lossless, choosing QuickTime from here, choosing H.264 from that, which it already was. Then we're going to choose on the output 2. We're going to click on that Sarcona Pacman, or whatever yours is, and locate where we want to save this to. Now, After Effects doesn't know where we want to save stuff to, so we have to redirect it to our folder. Right now, mine's set to another instructor's folder. So I want to make sure I save this to my folder. And the project folder actually has a movies folder in it. So my Pacman folder, inside that Pacman folder is a movies folder. I like to put my movies inside that folder. That way it's nice and organized. So I just go into that, and then I hit save. And then we hit render. All right, so now we have our movie. Sarcona, 2510, work, Pacman, movies. Wonderful. Okay, you'll notice on my screen, probably not really, but on your screen you might see maybe your video is a little bit blurry, or not blurry, but like not very good contrast, whatever that word is, I can't think of. Yeah, just kind of cloudy is what it looks like. Okay, there's and I don't know why they haven't fixed it yet, but there's a bug inside of QuickTime that does that, and you have to do this funky thing. We're not going to do it for this one, we'll do it for our other ones, but we have to do this, and I go to Movie Inspector, nope, I go to Movie Properties, I go to my video track, visual settings, and I change this to blend, and I pull it up, and I change this to straight alpha, and I close it, and then when I hit play now, there it goes. Now it's not like it was before. It's a ridiculous fix. I don't know why it does it. Okay, then I would save. I don't care about it that much. All right, so now what we're going to do is take this file and we're going to copy it. So you grab your file and you just hit Control-C. And then you're going to go to the student area over here on the left, into the 2510, into Sarcona. What happened to our student file before? And then we're just going to paste your movie file inside of there. Okay? All right, wonderful. Okay, so that's going to be the process for turning in your movies, is just dropping them into that folder. For your first project that we do, the desk, we're going to be actually turning in the Maya project folder as well, which will go into covering that as well. Okay. All right, so that's that. So just we can close that window. We can close After Effects. There's no real need to save your After Effects file. It would actually take you less time just to go in After Effects and drop the stuff in than it would to try to relocate and whatever else. All right, so now we can go over our hotkeys. With that, give me 2 more minutes before you make a decision.